Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Intro to JavaScript workshop. We're so excited to have you with us, and we have some awesome content on our first course that we ever launched, our Intro to JavaScript course. We're going to be able to walk through some lessons today, learn about some tools on CodeHS. So we're really happy to have you with us here. And we want to get a little bit of info about who's with us. So if you could open up the chat and just say who you are, where you're coming to us from, and if you're new to CodeHS or if you've taught with CodeHS before, maybe you've taught JavaScript already, or you're trying out a new class. Awesome, thanks. So I see we have 2 people new to CodeHS. Awesome. Well, we have a lot of good info for you then. Cool, Brooklyn. Awesome. Lots of people. Awesome. Tracy is a CodeHS veteran, teaching with CodeHS for a few years. Awesome. Lots of people new. That's great. So we're going to get some more info on that in a little bit. We are going to drop a link into the chat for attendance. So if you could just click this. Yeah, Rachel, I know I have lots of people who have been coming to all of my PDs, so it's very nice to see you again. We just dropped an attendance chat link into the chat. So if you could click through that, it will just let us know that you're here. Awesome. And we have lots of tips, Vanessa, to make your life easier. That's the goal. That's why we're here. Awesome. So we still have some people joining in, but we are going to get started because we have a jam-packed session today. So just to introduce who's here with you today, my name is Julia Trigo, and I am working as a PD specialist this summer with CodeHS. I used to work for CodeHS about a year ago on the curriculum team developing some courses, but then I went back to the classroom during this crazy year. And so I, during the school year, work at a high school in Virginia. And I am joined here by Ryan Hart, who is a curriculum developer working on this JavaScript course. And he's going to lead us today through some sample lessons and show you a lot of resources and awesome tips for using this JavaScript course. And then we also have Ebony Davis with us, and she's going to bring us through some tools on CodeHS to make your life easier. How can you use the tools to make your life as a teacher on CodeHS easier during the school year? So that will be our session we're going to go through a little bit later in our workshop today. So we're gonna drop, we had a lot more people join. So Ebony, if we could drop that attendance link one more time, just so that everyone can have access to that quickly to click through. And we are going to get started here. So if you have questions during our session today, we are gonna be using a question parking lot. So if you could have this document open on the side, this is a really great place to get a lot of good information. We have some quick links on the top of that as well. So this is a really nice thing to have open in the background. If you missed that attendance link, you have that right at the top. As we go through some different parts of our workshop today, you have a lot of links there that we're going to be giving to you as we go in the chat, but you'll have those there to reference. We also have a workbook that we're going to use, and that is linked in the quick links as well. And that will just be a nice way for you to stay on track and have some links as we go through the lesson today. We're going to do a sample lesson. And if you have any questions at all as we go through our content, that's a really awesome place for you to put them, because we are able to give you direct links and articles that will help you get some more information about what you're looking for. And you can ask questions at any point. We are going to be constantly checking that document and answering questions as we go through our session today. So you don't have to wait until the end. ask your questions as soon as you have them, and we will make sure that we get those answered. And I just want to double check that you all have access to edit. Awesome. All right, perfect. So that's a great place for you to both ask your questions and then also to see what questions other people asked, because the answers are going to be written right there as well. All right. So if you are brand new to CodeHS, I saw a few people who said that. If you need an account, you can go to codehs.com/sign up. We got that link right in the chat. And this will have you go through the quick process of getting a teacher account on CodeHS so that we can make sure you have access to all the material we're looking at today. Our accounts are free, so you can sign up right there and get verified as being a teacher. If you already have an account, you can just log in. We're going to use that as we go through our workshop. And if you are not sure yet, or you just, you're brand new and you're like, this is a lot, you can just take a step back and watch today. And you're going to receive this recording after our session, so you can go back and go through those steps and create an account at that time. So don't feel pressured to, try to be navigating a lot of different things at once if you are brand new to CodeHS. If you do have an account, though, we are going to use a demo section today as we go through our JavaScript course. So if you go to this link, we're going to drop that one in the chat too. codehs.com/go/20782. At the end, those last 5 digits are the code for our section. So if you go to that link, it will ask you for a code, and those 5 digits are the code that will enroll you in our workshop session for today. And that's going to give you access to the full JavaScript course, as well as all the information we are working through in our sample lesson as we go through that. So this is a really good thing to get enrolled in, so you have all of that access. So I'm going to give just maybe a minute or two so that everyone can get all of those. I know we just dropped a lot of links on you. I'll give you a minute or two to get enrolled in that, make your accounts, get your question parking lot open that workbook if you would like to. I know there's a lot of to-dos right off the bat. All right, and while you finish that up, I'm just going to go over our quick agenda for today, so we see what we're going to be doing, so you can continue finishing that up. We are getting our account set up and getting enrolled in our demo section right now. Then Ryan is going to bring us through an overview of that JavaScript course, what actually is included in that course, and what are students going to learn. And then he's going to go through a full sample lesson. So he's going to act as the teacher. You are going to be the students to be able to experience how a student would actually see this content on CodeHS. And so the goal here is for you to see those tips that he uses, all the teacher moves that he is using with the CodeHS resources, to give you some ideas of some options for how you can use CodeHS in your classroom, because there's so many different ways that you can use the materials to make them work for your students. Then we're going to debrief that, and he's going to look through, behind the scenes, why did he make those choices, and what are some other choices he could have made based on the resources you'll have. And then we'll look through maybe another sample lesson from JavaScript and see a little bit more about those instructional strategies that were used there. And then at the end of our session today, we're going to go through our teacher tools and resources in general, all of these tools and resources that you have available on CodeHS. And I know a lot of you have been to another session before. So that might be a little bit of a review, but this might be a good chance for you to go back and try those tools out on your own as Ebony brings us through that section there. All right. And just a reminder, I know we say Q&A at the end, but you can be using that question parking lot the entire time. Let's drop that question parking lot link in one more time, because we had a lot more people join at the end here. And this is definitely your go-to spot to ask questions. So if, Ryan is talking and it sparks something in your mind, go right over there and drop that in, and we will make sure you get an answer as quick as possible. All right. Thanks so much. And we're gonna push it over to Ryan now.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. Excited to be here with you guys and talk through this course. I am the developer overseeing the course, and I may be biased. It is one of my favorite courses, just because it is so dynamic and there's a lot in there. So let's start with an overview. So the course in general is aimed at high school, grades 9 through 12. We have a variety of versions of the course to help you implement it in your classroom. So everything from a semester course to kind of a standard regular level course to a more accelerated honors version. So we have those different flavors in our course catalog. All of them, though, teach the fundamentals of programming. So students will learn, really, the major topics in programming, as well as a little more of the technical and syntax side of JavaScript. So all of them will get into that. All of them are very visual, dynamic, and interactive. And this is really what makes them my favorite. And JavaScript just kind of lends itself well to that. So for example, here's a little snapshot of a program that students will write in the first introduction module to the course. And this is our programming with Karel. And so here you see Karel building a staircase with tennis balls, and we'll get into Karel in a little bit. But you'll see the code, even though it's a simplified version of JavaScript, so they're not having to use all of the syntax of JavaScript, they can really focus on the fundamentals and kind of the logic behind it. So this is towards the end of that module, so it builds up incrementally, but it's very dynamic from the start. And here's a snapshot of the classic breakout game, and this is at the end of most of the versions of the course. And so students are building all the pieces of this, adding the graphics, adding the logic, having the graphics interact with each other and the users. So it's very hands-on course and very visual. So all of the lessons pretty much include a short video tutorial, a check for understanding quiz, and then example programs with code pre-written, and then programming exercises and projects where students will be doing most of their coding work. And so you'll see that lessons, as we go through it, will have that general framework. This course expects no previous knowledge of programming, so it is an introductory level, and it's entirely web-based. And so students don't need anything other than a browser. So you don't need plugins, you don't need software, which is great. I know as a teacher, that can be hard setting things up. So just internet connection, browser, and you'll be fine, which is true with most of our CodeHS courses. So looking at the course structure, again, this is similar to all of our CodeHS courses. At the top level, the course is broken down into modules. And so modules are like the major topics throughout the course, and we'll look specifically at those. And then the modules are broken down into lessons. And each lesson is usually aimed at like a class period or two, depending on your students. And then the lessons are broken into activities. And so here you can see the activities mentioned. We have that video, a check for understanding quiz, an example, and a programming exercise. So those are the activities we'll go through today. All right, so the specific modules in this course. So as I mentioned, the course, all of our courses, JavaScript courses begin with programming with Karel. I love this. I think this is one of the best introductions to programming because it is a stripped down, simplified version of JavaScript. There's only a few kind of commands to start that students learn and get used to syntax, but then they get through the major logic of conditionals and loops and functions all within that structure, so they can really focus on the logic. Then throughout the rest of the course, they're getting into full JavaScript, applying that logic that they learned through actual JavaScript. So getting into graphics, learning the control structures, the syntax with that, a little more details with functions and parameters and inputs. And then they actually learn how to animate and ending in this breakout game. So that's kind of our regular level course. We do have a data structures module as well that's supplemental and it is part of the accelerated course. We have additional projects as well that are mixed in with the accelerated version and you can add in as supplement. And in general, this is actually, this was our original course at CodeHS. So we have a lot of supplemental material, which is great. I think it really plays into the strength of this sort of platform because you can have extra practice. You can differentiate between students who need maybe the extra support and those who might benefit from, more advanced challenges. So you can assign those different activities to students fairly easily through our LMS platform. So everything from kind of the supplemental to a midterm and actually additional topics too, if you wanted to, add that to your course or extend in any way. Okay, so for the rest of my time with you, we're going to be diving into a couple sample lessons so you can both experience what the curriculum is like as a student and start thinking about how you might implement it as a teacher in the classroom. And that's something that we'll explore together. So just to make sure we can put this in the chat again, if you want to access this content right now, here is our workshop section. So go ahead and enroll yourself. Everything is locked right now, so you won't be able to access it. I'm going to unlock it when we start going through it, but go ahead and join that section. Okay, so it's in the chat, it's there, you can join. All right, so we're going to talk through two lessons. The first one we're going to work through together. As Julia mentioned, I'll play kind of the teacher role and you guys will be the students experience it. And so there will be some participation live in Zoom, and then we'll do some work and you guys can actually work through the exercises yourself. So we're going to start with the first lesson in the first module. So lesson 1.1, this is the intro to Karel lesson. And then after we talk through that, we're going to look at one more lesson just to demonstrate another way to implement a lesson, demonstrate some other resources. This lesson is much further in the course. So if you're new to programming or JavaScript, definitely don't expect you to understand these concepts yet. It's in our 7th module when students are first getting into functions and parameters. So just, to show you a kind of a snapshot of something different than what Karel would offer. So we'll look through a variety of ways of how you can present it in different environments. I think most people I've heard are in the classroom again this fall, but it's always good to kind of think through what that might look like. And pretty much everything, all of the curriculum is available on our free plan, as Julia mentioned. So everything is free. You can teach this course for free. And there are some resources that are part of our pro package, like the lesson plans and handouts, and some of the tools that Ebony will show at the end. But in general, everything's for free. We want that curriculum in your hands. So everything I'm going to go with you today in terms of sample lesson, you can do without getting that pro plan yet. So just so you know that is all available. All right, so let's start with our first sample lesson. This is lesson 1.1. And again, I will be the teacher here. So we'll start here with a class discussion, start with some discussion questions. So we have a nice small group here. So I do hope you guys will participate. So the first question I want to start this lesson with is, in your own words, what is a computer? And I know we all have a sense of it. I don't know how much we verbalized it. So in the chat in Zoom, if you want to just type out a response, just give it a go in your own words. What is a computer? And there's no right or wrong answers. This is just to generate some ideas here. And I'll look through. All right, a device that can do things more efficiently than I can. Nice. Device that can process instructions, process information. Cool, a device for inputting. And even if you see your own, somebody else type what you were thinking, go ahead and type it. It's just, it helps for you to verbalize it yourself, put it in words. Device for inputting, storing, processing, a machine that follows directions, input, storage, processing, program. Okay, cool. Something that takes input, processes, computer that takes information. Okay, so I'm seeing some common themes. This idea of it's taking in information, it's processing it, there's some logic there, it can follow instructions, and then there may be an output to that. Complex enough to simulate a workspace. Sometimes junk in and junk out. That is true. Cool. Nice. So I like that idea. It's taking information in, it's doing something with it, and potentially there's an output there. All right, so follow-up question. I'm going to put a statement on the screen, and I want you to decide if you agree with this or not. So the statement is, a dog is a computer. So in the little reactions button in Zoom, if you want to click yes, if you agree, and no if you disagree. And the statement is a dog a computer? And I can monitor, I can see your little X's and check marks here. Okay. So I'm seeing a mix. I think there's probably more no's than yeses, but there are some of both. I'm glad Ebony weighed in as well. She's on the no side here, but we'll see. Okay, cool. It's like a lot of people put in. So I would say it seemed like maybe 2/3, 3/4 no, a third to a quarter said yes. So I would love to get a volunteer just to give it a shot, explain why you picked what you picked. And again, no right or wrong answers, just kind of generating some ideas here. So if you are willing to give it a shot, if you could raise your hand in the reactions panel, and I can call on you and you can unmute yourself. All right, so the first hand I see is Aaron Walker. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I said no because like you can give dogs commands and they don't listen. Per example, my dog who's on my bed right now.
That's very true. Good. So I think that's a great point. While there are many cases where a dog can take in instructions, process that information, and then they have a choice. They may or may not follow that instructions, which depending on, referring to your answers that you guys put in the chat, the computer generally will follow your instructions. What you put in is what you're going to get out. But a dog does have that choice there. And if you've ever been a pet owner, you know that moment where they look at you and they know what you're saying, but they're going to do it the opposite anyway. Cool. Thank you, Aaron, for answering there. All right, so let's talk about our dog. So who is Karel? Well, so Karel is our robot dog. So Karel does listen to our commands most of the time. So we're going to work with Karel a lot here. And Karel is actually named after an old Czech writer. And he was, I think you actually pronounce his name Karel, but we say Karel. And he was famous for popularizing the word robot. And so we honor him in using Karel as our robot dog. So Karel lives in a grid world. And so you'll see this a lot. And so each dot in the grid world represents a location that she can exist in. And so Karel can move around the grid world and put down and pick up tennis balls. Specifically, she only knows 4 commands at the moment. So we have move, which would move Karel forward 1 dot, turn left, which would rotate Karel 90 degrees left, put ball, we'll put down a tennis ball, and take ball would take a tennis ball if there's a tennis ball on that square. So let's look at one of these. We'll look at the move command. So some things to note here. So there's no spaces. So there's no spaces between move, the parentheses, and that semicolon. That's all combined. You need to match the capitalization. Otherwise, Karel won't understand what you're trying to say. And every command, so those 4 commands, ends in open and close parentheses and excuse me, a semicolon. So that's part of what Karel needs to understand what you're asking her to do. All right, so let's pull up our first example here, and we're going to work through it together. So this is what we call the CodeHS editor. So you'll spend all of your programming time in this space. So this main part, yours might look white when you open it up in a moment. Mine's black, and you can change that setting, but this is where you'll type and program. Then you have the space on the right to actually run your code, and you'll be able to see Karel follow your commands. As you're doing your work, you'll see an example or exercise tab, and that'll provide instructions or an ending world that you're trying to match with Karel. So in this case, this is what we're going to try to create. And then we have just a quick documentation for you to look up. So you'll see here are the commands that we just talked about. And as you go through the course, there's going to be a lot more that you're going to learn. And so this is a great way as you're programming to look up that information. Okay, so we want to be able to move Karel 2 spaces, put down a tennis ball, and then move Karel forward again 2 spaces. Over here on the left, we have kind of a quick reference here that shows that result world. So I'm just going to move it back. This is a little slider on speed, just how quickly Karel will follow the commands. So let's start by typing move. So I'm going to type move here, and I'll run this. I'll show you. Karel simply moves. Now I get a little error because right now the program ran and it didn't match the result world. That's okay. We're not there yet. So I want to move Karel 1 more space. So let's do that and run it. Okay, so I have an error. You may have made a typo. You typed move instead of move. Check your spelling capitalization. Okay, so yes, I made a typo. This is so normal, and this is going to happen all the time. You're going to get typos, and even professional programmers, our engineers, are constantly debugging typos. Debugging means you're finding errors in code. So just get used to it. We're going to develop throughout the year techniques on how you can help identify some of these errors, but does not mean you're a bad programmer. It's going to happen. All right, so now let's run this. Okay, so Karel moved twice, and now I want to put down a tennis ball. So I have put ball here. So put ball, parentheses, go. Okay, another typo. Capitalization. Okay, so like I mentioned, the capitalization needs to match. So in JavaScript, we always have a lowercase first letter. And then if there's a second word in the command, it's going to be capitalized. So put ball, the ball should be capitalized. And so if I run that now, we put the ball, and now we just want to move twice. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste these, which is a totally fine technique. It saves you some typing. And now we'll run this. Awesome. Okay, so fairly simple. Moved Karel twice, put a ball, move Karel twice again. And now you can see down here that we got this. All right, cool. So now it's your turn. You guys are going to do some programming. So if you enrolled in the workshop section and you're on your CodeHS page, go ahead and click on My Sections. And then you'll see it's going to look a little different. I think I put a July in there. So 2021 Summer JSPD July should be your section name. So go ahead and click on that. And again, everything's locked right now. I'm going to unlock it in a moment, but just want to make sure we all get to that page. So My Sections. And then you'll probably only have one section in there if you're new. All right, so you're going to see this with Ebony, but this is part of our Pro Tools. So we have something called access controls that allows us to lock lessons, modules, activities so that you guys don't go ahead of me, and so we can all work through it together. So I'm just going to go ahead and unlock this first lesson in the workshops lesson module. So you can now refresh your page, and that you'll see that all these activities are going to be available and unlocked. You won't see the locked next to it anymore. So what I would like you guys to do, we just have a very simple one question check for understanding quiz. So go ahead and start with that activity. You can click through. We already did the program together, our first Karel program. And then I'd like you to work on the last two exercises in this lesson. Again, this is under Workshop Lessons module, Introduction to Programming with Karel, the first lesson. And so do the quick check for understanding quiz, and then the final two exercises. So we're going to give you a little time here, and then we'll pull you back. In reality, I may give you more time for the workshop. I may have to cut it back early, but when you're done and you finish those two exercises, go ahead and give it a little thumbs up to in Zoom in the reactions so we can see where you guys are. So let us know if you have any questions, and we can answer that in chat. And if it is still locked, I saw one person said still locked, go ahead and refresh your page. Thank you, Julia. And that should unlock it. All right, Laura, I will, I'll just look at your access here. Everything's unlocked on my end, so you should be good, but let's see here. Yeah, Laura, looks like you're good to go. Looks like that first lesson is unlocked. And I think some of you might have joined late, so we're if you enrolled in the workshop section, which Julia just put that link in our chat. So we have a workshop demo section for this course, or for this workshop. And so we're in the first module, workshop lessons. And then we're doing the first lesson in that module. And so you're doing the check for understanding quiz and then the last two exercises. Awesome, thank you, Julia. Awesome, I see some thumbs up trickling in here. So it looks like those who are working on the activities are doing great. We'll give maybe just another minute for those who haven't finished yet to catch up. If you want to grab a drink or something now, get some water, stretch. All right, awesome. It looks like a lot have finished up here. If you haven't finished, no problem, that's okay. You will have access to this so you can keep working on it and beyond our workshop. So let's move forward here. Okay, so let's wrap up with a quick poll to see how you guys are doing. So if you have your phone, you can quickly scan this QR code. Otherwise, you can go to slido.com, then type in CodeHS, and there's a little poll code box there to join here. So scan the QR code or do that. So the first question, I'm curious where you guys are at. how confident do you feel using our Karel commands? You can either do this on the phone or on the computer. Let's see where you guys are at. Awesome, early response is good, positive, 4 or 5. It's good to see. Okay, we'll give it a couple more seconds, see if more trickle in. It seems like people are fairly confident. All right, awesome. Go ahead, you can continue to respond, but it looks like most people are feeling pretty good. That's great. So next question here. So this is a free response. So what were some of the mistakes / lesson learned, one and the same thing here, after completing these activities? Go ahead and type in this poll. Again, if you're not on the poll, you can scan the QR code, or go to slido.com. And yeah, I would love to see what you guys learned here. So fully read instructions. Absolutely. Reading's hard. Syntax is important, semicolons, can't put value in the parentheses. Good try, yeah. That's something later in the course we'll be able to do. Spacing matters, forgot the parentheses, capitalization. I expect all of this in our first programming activities. Syntax there's just a learning curve. Where you put the parentheses, where the semicolons go, what you capitalize, what you don't capitalize. Put value in parentheses, yeah. I'm glad that somebody tried putting value in parentheses. That seems very reasonable. Something that we will talk about later in the course. Actually, in our other sample lesson, you'll see typos. Nice. Any other lesson learned beyond syntax related things? It's probably most of it. Cool. All right. Awesome. So yeah, again, what I expect, you'll get better at it, trust me. And it will be something that's just part of programming, is being aware of syntax. All of my lessons are already completed. Like a blank page. Okay, yeah, we can look into that. Your exercises should have been blank. The example would have pre-entered code. So there's a difference between example and exercises there. Cool. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. All right. So for homework, as you guys for students, I would like you to complete this worksheet. So if we were in class, I would print this out for you guys. And if we're kind of working virtually, I could send you a Google Docs copy of this. So I'm just going to show you guys what that would look like. So this would be what the homework would be. So it's taking a task written in words and then being able to write the code using the Karel commands with the proper syntax. So this is, you don't actually have to do this, but this is what your homework would be for class. Okay, so that's the end of the lesson there. A very simple first lesson. So now let's kind of shift gears and talk about pedagogy and how we would implement this in a classroom. And again, all your classrooms are going to be a little different. You know your students best. So let's talk through what I did and some other options then that you have here. So in terms of lesson content, I use the CodeHS slides that would be in the video in that lesson. So you can watch the video and you'll see similar slides. I taught through those slides myself because I wanted to talk through them and elaborate on them. But of course, you can add them to your own presentation, I guess, which is kind of what I did anyway. You can have the students watch the video in class or flipped as for homework and watch it individually. Or you could watch the video all together and then either pause or discuss at the end, see what questions students have. So that's also a great way to do that. The example for this lesson, I started with a blank editor and we worked through this together. Now, maybe in a normal class, I might have had students speaking up and offering like what code to put in there. Doing Karel activities in real life is also great. So you can tape out a grid world and then have a like human Karel with tennis balls, and then maybe write commands on the board. And so Karel can only follow those commands. So that's a great way to do examples as well. I love examples. I think students can often just click through them if they're working them through on their own, but there's a lot you can do with them as a class discussion. So you could also go through, have students go through example self-paced, and maybe you have a supplemental worksheet asking guided questions. I like this one too. You can debug a faulty example. So before class, maybe cause some syntax errors or delete a line, and as a class or in pairs, they have to find the errors. So it's kind of like a fun scavenger hunt. So that's always great. Or you could just have the students explore the example together with a partner. So a lot of ways to use that example as like a discussion kind of exploration process. Exercises in this case, so those are the ones you did on your own. You did individually in this lesson, but it's easy to do it in pairs or in small groups as well. And especially as you get maybe more complicated, pairing students up so they can help each other and use each other as reference is a great way to do that. And then for lesson opener and closer, I had those discussion questions at the beginning. Those actually came from our lesson plan, which is a pro resource as part of our course. So we have discussion questions in there. And then I did have you do that video quiz as kind of part of our opener. And then after you completed the lesson, I used Slido, which we just have the free account. So I use that as a mobile exit survey. You can do that in many different ways in your classroom. And then for homework, I assigned the handout. The handout is also a pro resource in this case, but it's super easy, to quickly create a handout of your own. And so handouts are great offline activities. So even in class, if you want to do a handout, get students working together, kind of writing off the computer, that's a great way to break up kind of the sitting at the computer mode. Okay, so we're going to end this sample lesson with discussion among you guys. So we'll drop this link in the chat, and what it's going to bring you to is a folder with a bunch of different documents. We're going to split you up into breakout groups. So your breakout group number will correspond to the document that you should open. So if I'm in breakout group 4, I'll open document number 4. So I'll let Julia and Ebony take care of that. And so we'll give you just some time. You can look through the lesson plan. The link is in these documents. You can look through what's there, and then some time together to introduce yourselves and debrief this and talk about how you might implement it in your classroom.
All right. So something happened with my internet and I am no longer a host of this session. So Ebony, if you could get those breakout rooms set up, that would be awesome. Let me know if you need any help with that.
Awesome.
Now I'm just a participant, just like everyone else.
And Ebony, let me know if you need any help with that. We'll do groups of around 5 people or so.
All right, opening up just a second.
All right, so you'll just have to click the pop-up to join your group.
All right, welcome back. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys to be able to talk amongst each other. And you guys are all in the classroom, your students, so to hear different ideas on what would work for you in your setup, I think is always super helpful. At least I always like that time as a teacher. So we are going to get into sample lesson 2. Let's take maybe just a 2-minute break if some of you didn't get a chance to break after that discussion. So if you want to take, let's say, we'll say, I don't know, Julian, 3 minutes? That work?
Yeah, that works.
All right, so if you guys just want to take a 3-minute break before we get in the sample lesson, stand up, go to the bathroom, do whatever you need to do, and we'll hop on here at 4 to 5 after the hour. And then we'll continue on. All right, awesome. Well, let's jump right into our sample lesson 2. So let's make sure everything's shared. Great. So as I mentioned, we're not going to participate in this one. You're not going to do the exercises. So we're just going to talk through it and talk through how I might implement this lesson. And the goal here is just to give you another example of implementing a CodeHS lesson and some different techniques that you could use. So this lesson, much further in the course, it's our first lesson on functions and parameters in module 7. So again, if you haven't programmed before, or if you are new to JavaScript, don't expect you to understand all of the example we'll see. So why is my, there we go. Okay, so the homework I would assign the previous night coming into the class would be this functions and parameters video. So I would have the students watch it in a flipped classroom kind of way. So they're going to watch the video, take notes, and then they'll come back into the classroom having already watched it. So we don't have to spend class time watching this. And I'm just going to, while I'm here, unlock this so you guys can take a peek. So if you're on your page, you can refresh it and you'll have this second lesson now available to you. Okay, so that would be the homework. So I'm not going to talk through content with them for this lesson. So we would then start class getting into the example. And again, I like using examples as discussions. I love the Socratic method of like being able to ask questions and explore with the students. And so this is a chance to see what they've taken from that video as well. So this is an example that I've beforehand gone in and edited. So I created some errors in here. So the goal would be for us to work together to see if we can, students can find what the errors are. And you can either do this in groups or together as a class. So for those of you who maybe have some experience with JavaScript or functions, I'm curious, you can go ahead and type in the chat if you can identify the bugs in this program. If you don't understand what you're seeing, that's okay. But for those who have a little more experience, I'd be curious if you can find where the errors are. All right, line 3, missing a semicolon. Yep, that's exactly right. Good job, Brenda. What else we got here? Line 5, missing parentheses. Good guess. Actually, we don't need any parentheses on line 5. When we declare a variable, we don't need any parentheses, but that's a good guess. Should print line be, also good guess. So on line 12, based on what we talked about, if there's 2 words within a command, that L should be capitalized. In this case, it's actually not. This print line is it's part of, we have a CodeHS a teaching library that we simplify some of the JavaScript syntax just a little bit to make it a little more accessible. And so this was a predefined function that for whatever reason is not, the L is not capitalized, but it's also a good guess. I'll just give it 30 more seconds, see if anyone can identify it. There's 2 more errors, 3 more errors. And they're a little more function specific. Parentheses on line 11. Also a good guess. We don't need parentheses on line 11. Everything's fine is written there. Good. All right, Melissa, good pickup here. So, so one of the differences that we would talk about as a class is the difference between defining and calling a function. And so Melissa picked out one of these things. So in these early lines, we're calling a function, kind of like you called the Karel commands. You're asking Karel to do something. So we're now calling this function double number. And down here, starting in line 10, I'm defining a function. And And so one of the errors is that we need the word function right before double number. So that's how in JavaScript we define a function. Again, you wouldn't necessarily know that if you haven't learned that yet, but we would need a function there. And then what Melissa pointed out is that in the definition, the parameter that we're using, we need to put the variable x, because in the function, we're using the variable x. And so that would be part of the definition of the function, is that we're going to receive input from a call. So we're calling with input 5 and 12 and the value of y. And so we need to have the value of x there. So it would be 2 times x, then that's going to be stored into our variable. Good, and I think Elaine pointed out the final error was that the point of this function was to double the number and print out the result. So double x is my variable that's storing my new value of 2 times whatever my input is. And so I should be printing out double x, not y. And this would actually cause an error because there's kind of a larger issue there we won't get into. But good job, nice. So those are the errors. Again, students will have had the knowledge up to this point to come up with that. You guys are hitting a little more exposed. But that's how I would work through this, and to be able to talk about the difference of calling, using arguments to send in values, and then defining a function with parameters, which should be x. So the difference there. I would then also extend it. I would have students then define and call a new function. So to define a function called add 10, in which it would take in a number and then add 10 and print the result. So very similar to what we're seeing here, just to see if they're understanding this. And then as an extension for those maybe who are doing well, more advanced students, I would have them define and call a function called add numbers. And so add numbers would be a function that would take in 2 numbers as parameters and then add them together and print that result. This lesson doesn't talk about taking in 2 parameters, so I wouldn't expect them to do it, but that's where maybe more advanced students, they could figure it out, or they could use the documentation and learn on their own. So that's something that will come up later in the course, but a way maybe to push the advanced students as others are working on the simpler function. Awesome. So then following the example, I would break students up in pairs and actually have them work through the next 2 exercises together. And so there's different ways that you can collaborate in the classroom. You can either have them on one computer and one person's typing and one person's providing more of that like oversight kind of logic called pair programming. Or you could have students just sitting side by side, each of them opening up their own exercise, and they're just working on it together on their own screens. That's another way. If you are virtual, or if you want to use our collaboration feature, CodeHS has a way to collaborate. So I'm just going to demo this really quick with Julia here. So in the sandbox, which is up here, this is just a free space to program. You can share a collaboration link between students. And so they can actually work on the same file together at the same time. So I can see Julia has joined, so she can start typing. She's typing down there, and I can start typing here. Define my own function. And so this is a great way if you want to have students working on the same file. It's also, in the future, if you're working on projects together with students, this is a good way to do it. So really cool function, etc. So you can kind of see how that goes. So that is a feature that we have available through the sandbox, which is our IDE on the site. Somebody asked, how do you collaborate? So I'll just show you really quick. So if you open up a sandbox new program, you click sandbox, create program, and then this share button, there's a tab here, collaborate. So you can copy that collaboration link, send it to somebody you want to collaborate with. and then they'll join your program, and both people will be able to type. And you can collaborate with any number of people, which is kind of fun. It can be a little chaotic, but yeah, so that's Collaborate. That's kind of aside from our course, but it's an awesome feature. One of the most requested feature last year that we got implemented. So cool. So I would have them, yeah, work in pairs, however that may be. And then I would end the class with some reflection questions. Now, what's cool about this is that this free response that you see in the lesson, this is not part of the CodeHS course. So this is actually an activity I quickly created before our workshop, and it took less than 3 minutes, and added it to this lesson. So you have, as teachers, the same tools that we have as developers to add activities and to customize your courses, and it's free. So even not in the pro plan, you can add an activity quickly to your lesson. So I love, things like free response question, getting students to think about what they're doing, whether warm-up questions, exit questions. You can also have quizzes, exercises, any type of activity in there. So definitely recommend this creation piece especially if you're experienced. If you're new, for the most part, like you'll be totally fine. I mean, you'll be totally fine with our CodeHS course, but if you're experienced and you want to add some customization for your students, that's a great way to do it. All right, and then for homework, there's another handout in this lesson. So I would have students do this as homework. If we have time at the end of class, they could start working on this together. Essentially, it's taking the hokey pokey dance, where there's a lot of commands that repeat each other, and it's using functions to make it more efficient. So you're not repeating the same commands over and over, but you can just call a function to do a certain set of commands. So it reduces the line of code. So that's something that I would have students work on for homework, and then we would discuss together in class. So slightly different lesson. We can talk through the changes. I had students watch the video flipped on their own if they have internet connection at home. That way we're not spending in-class time just going through content delivery, and more time to be able to do the example together. And then the example, I put errors in it before, and so we debugged it together as a class. But that's also a fun way to do it as pairs. You could do it as teams, like a race, who can find the errors first. So there are a lot of kind of fun ways you can do that too. And then we use pair programming for the exercises, collaboration. And then I created my own activity to have discussion questions at the end, or more like reflection type questions at the end. And then I still did a worksheet handout for homework. So slightly different. It's a more advanced lesson. There are different ways to implement this. And the nice thing is, like, you can vary it. You can vary it throughout the module, and maybe some you do videos in class, some you do out of class, just to kind of break things up. I think the collaboration bit, like getting students talking together, working together, maybe you could rotate students around to provide feedback on the more complicated projects. There are some open-ended projects or exercises. So for the exercises, you could have them in small groups. And then after a certain amount of time, they rotate and provide feedback. So that's kind of a fun way to just get a little more interaction between the students. So yeah, so there's that sample lesson. So we're going to do one more breakout session here for about 10 minutes or so. So we'll break you out into new groups. This will be the same thing. Open this link and then the file that relates to your breakout group number. And then we will pull you back, and Ebony will take over and just give you a very quick overview of the tools, the kind of class management tools we have on our site.
All right, the breakout rooms are open, so you'll just have to click the pop-up to join your room.
Hello, welcome back. We're going to give everyone a little bit more time to come on back in groups, and then we'll get started. All right, thank you guys for doing that with us. I hope you guys had a very productive debrief, and I hope you guys learned a lot going through those 2 lessons today. So we are going to transition over to teacher tools and resources. And so we have a lot of slides showing you the different tools and resources, but I think it's going to be a little bit more helpful if I show you on my teacher page as we are going through. And so before we get started, actually in the chat earlier, someone was asking what it would look like when you choose this drop-down menu, if you were supposed to choose the teacher page or the student page. And so the teacher page, these sections are the sections that you are actually teaching. And under student page, these are going to be all of your sections that you are enrolled in as a student. So the workshop would be under this page. You can also view this menu by clicking this blue drop-down menu here. So if you click student, you'll get a page here, which has the sections divided similarly. The top, your sections enrolled as a student, and then down here, the sections that you are teaching. And you are able to go through these sections that you're teaching as a student, but this is just a helpful way to view it in a helpful way. Okay, now we're going to get started. So this is your teacher page. So when you sign in and you are click teacher, this is what you will see. And this is a list of your sections. So the first big tip I have is the difference between courses and sections. And Ryan briefly touched on it earlier today. But courses are going to be your list of assignments that are group of assignments that students are going to go through, while your sections are more like different class periods. So here I have 2 different sections. Both are doing the same Intro to JavaScript course, but they're just separated for ease of teaching. Once you click into your section, I have my pages preloaded just for Zoom's sake, but once you click into your section, you'll be taken to your roster page. And so from your roster page, you're able to see all of your students. You can see their progress. You have a lot of tools on this page, and this is very helpful. So up at the top of your roster page, you're going to see how students can join. And you can invite students either by email, or like we did earlier today, you can send them a join link. So they'll just need this link and then the class code, which is the last group of numbers and letters here. You can also find your class code at the top right here next to your section name. And also in your teacher page, you'll see the class code next to your section as well. So once all your students have joined, from this page, you're able to manage their accounts. So if you click manage student accounts here, or also student settings here, that is where you're going to change student name, email. If they have trouble signing in, you can help them change their password from student settings, which is a spear icon, or manage student accounts. And then briefly, I forgot to mention, if you do have questions, please remember to post them in our question parking lot doc. That way we can answer them for you and get you links to helpful articles. Okay, so our first major tool we're going to talk about is announcements. And this tool is very helpful for sending messages to your students. And of course, you can email students, but when you send an announcement, all the students in your section will get a pop-up or a notification as soon as they log into CodeHS, telling them whatever your announcement is. And you can also have a list of the announcements that you have sent in the past here. And you can choose right here which section you are sending announcements to. The next tool, similarly to announcements, is the conversation tool. And so this tool, you can see this little chat icon next to the student's name. When you're having a conversation with students, This is just a chat tool that you can have that is independent of any assignment. This will just be between you and the student. And as soon as the student logs in, they will also get a notification telling them that you are having a conversation, as will you. The next tool we have is our attendance feature. And this is very, very helpful, especially with this crazy past year with everything going virtual. This is how you're going to see the work that your students have been doing on CodeHS. So once you click attendance, you'll be taken to a page. And we have attendance view for both for a week long and also daily attendance view. And so students are marked present or absent. X means absent. And anytime they are present, that is when they're doing any work on CodeHS, whether that's clicking around, whether it's watching a video. If they do any work for any amount of time, they'll be marked present. But as you see, it's summertime, so my students are not here, so they are all absent for this week. And so I would use this to get like a higher level view of attendance. And then if I want to research more, I would go into the actual daily attendance to get more info. And here you'll see the students' information, whether they're present or absent, the first time that they were active on this day, the most recent time they were active, and the total amount of time they spent on the site this day. Okay. So those are the major tools that you can get to from your roster page. The next tool we're going to go into is our due dates and access controls. And these are the tools that help you customize your course. We did see a couple of these earlier when Ryan was unlocking lessons for you. So I'm going to go to the due date and access control page. You can also view these pages separately, but I think it's helpful to see them all together here. And so these settings can be controlled for the module level, or you could break it down further to the lesson or even for the individual assignment as well. And so what Ryan was doing with locking and unlocking assignments was controlling the access controls. And this just is what controls whether or not students can access work. So when it's available, students have access and can complete the work. When it's locked, they will see the activity names, but they'll have a little locked icon and won't be able to interact with it. And you also have the option to schedule assignments. And so when an assignment is scheduled, you'll have the option to add a start or an end time. You can add both or either or. So you would use this maybe if you have an exam that you only want students to have access to for a certain amount of time, or if you have a particular due date and you only want students to have access up to a certain point. And so quickly, I'm going to show you what it looks like for this first module. I have it locked. When I view the assignments as a teacher, I can see that it's locked because there's this little icon next to it and I can hover over and it says it's locked. When I view the assignments as a student, like we saw earlier today, you can see the assignment names, but you won't be able to interact with them at all. So those are the access controls. We also have the option to add due dates, and adding due dates just has a little notification on each assignment telling students when they're due. And then there is a way for due dates to interact with our gradebook so that you're able to mark late assignments as 0 if you want. The last tool is the is assigned section. And if something is not assigned, students will not see the activities at all. So the difference between is assigned and access controls is with access controls, they'll still see the activities, just not be able to interact with them. Whereas with is assigned, if it's not assigned, they won't see it at all. And you would use this in a situation where you know students have already completed, for example, the Karel challenges. You would mark this as no, and students will not have access to this at all. And these controls you can do for all the sections that are taking this course, or you can specify them for a course. And additionally, you can do this for specific students as well. So maybe Liam just needs more time on something. You can click their name and you'll be taken to a page similar to this. where you can control those settings. Okay, so our next tool we're going to go through is the progress view. And this is super helpful to see where students are. We have progress view by its assignment, by the lesson, by the module. We have, time tracking, which shows you how much time students have spent on an assignment. And we also have a quiz score progress view. Today, we're going to look at the assignment progress view. And then you'll be taken to this sort of heat map, where it has all the students in your section along with all of the assignments in your course. And on each page, you have this kind of heat map. You're going to have a key at the top. Quickly, the gray means that the assignment has not been opened. Yellow means it's been opened and maybe started. Green means it's been submitted. Pink means it's been submitted, but you as a teacher has marked it as needs some work, and the student will have to come back and complete it. Purple means that it's been marked as needs work, but the student has resubmitted it. And then the teal means it's been finalized and graded. Okay, and the next tool we're going to go into is our grade book. And our grade book, I know some teachers also use this kind of as a progress monitor, because you do still have those colors here as well, but you also have students' grades for those assignments. So from the grade book, you're able to quickly change students' grades. So if you click edit here in the top left, you're able to change students' grades right here, or even change the total points for an assignment at the in this top bar right here. You are also able to configure exactly what's calculated in their grade. So if you choose configure, you can choose what you're going to include. So for example, if I don't want students to get points for videos, I would uncheck this, and they will still see the videos, but their grade won't be calculated in the overall grade average. You also have other settings, such as showing flags in the grade book for you to see which students submitted what assignment late. You also have the option to mark all late assignments as 0. And also you have the option to use weighted grading as well. The next very cool tool, it's one of my favorite tools on CodeHS, is the grading page. So from your gradebook, you're just going to choose an assignment name. And once you click on that name, you're taken to a grading page. And this is all of the student submissions in this section for this specific assignment. So from this page, you're able to give full credit, mark the assignment as 0, or even reset this specific assignment for all students at once. You're going to have information like started time and the latest submission, as well as the total time students spent. And my data looks a little bit wacky because these are demo students with fake data, but you will have that when you are using this. You can also change the status of the assignment here, as well as change the score. And by clicking view, you're able to view the actual assignment for this student here. You're also able to use FastGrade from this page, and I'll show you in just a second what FastGrade looks like. Gradebook and Progress is a pro tool. Thank you for asking, Virginia. So if you're using FastGrade, you're going to be able to quickly grade all of the submissions for just this assignment only, which is very helpful. If you get used to seeing the answers and you know what you're expecting, so it's helpful to go through all of the student submissions for this at once. Another way that you can use FastGrade, or another way to get to FastGrade, is in our review page. So in this top navigation, you can choose review, or on the side navigation, you can choose code review. And once you choose that, you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. And so here you see a FastGrade, and this FastGrade is going to be for all assignments in this section. So you may get 115, and the next assignment might be 144. It just depends on when students have turned that in. And you are able to filter that a little bit. But if you just want one specific assignment, I'd recommend using the grading page. So by clicking FastGrade, I'll show you what that looks like. You'll be given the student information on when it was submitted, and then you'll see the student code on the left and the solution code on the right. And this allows you to quickly grade student submissions. You also have this assignment directions. So if you click this little eye icon, you can see what they're supposed to do. You can run the student code by clicking this play button, and then also run the solution code to see what it should look like. And then you can quickly give grades here on the left, or even give feedback, and then you'll be taken to the next assignment directly after. So that fast grade is a pro feature, but we also have grade mode, which is also a fast grading option. And so grade mode looks it's a little bit different. When you are using grade mode, it will look like this, which kind of just looks like a student's assignment. You can see the different you can see the different student names up at the top, and you can grade via the grade tab, and you do the same thing, give feedback, give a grade, and then as soon as you click one of these buttons to finalize it, you'll be taken to the next submission in the queue. So it's still a fast way to grade, it's just a little bit different. Back to our review page. So we talk about student submissions. The next big tool is very helpful, is called help mode. So these are questions that students have submitted specific to an assignment. So earlier we talked about conversations where you can just have a conversation between you and a student, regardless of what they're working on. But these questions are submitted for a particular assignment. So when a student is working on an assignment, they will have a conversation tab, and they can enter a question, comment here, and then you can respond here as well. And again, students will get a notification when they have a new message. Okay, we're just trekking along. Okay, so we talked about progress, we talked about gradebook, we talked about our review and help queue, fast grade and grade mode. And next we're gonna hop into our resources. So we saw a lot of the resources such as lesson plans today, and we're gonna see where you can find those. So there's a couple different areas you can find those. Here in your roster page, if you click resources at the top here, you're going to be taken to a page that looks like this. So these are all the resources for this course that this section is taken. So you can see the syllabus, glossary, standards, and it's just kind of grouped together in this nice way. You can see handouts, and for all handouts, there's a teacher version as well as a student version. You can see the lesson plans, the solution references, as well as the problem guides. And solution references are free, so teachers, whether free or pro, have access to the solutions. And the problem guides are the solutions plus reasoning behind the lesson, as well as frequently asked questions as well. And anytime you see this little eyeball icon, that's where you can view the assignment as a student. So if you wanted to go through the course before your students, so you can know what's going on, that's what you would click. The other way that you can get to resources is from this left navigation panel. If you click this, you'll see a page that's a little bit different. The page will look like this. And so this is different because you can choose which course you're doing the resources for. But you have all the same information: handouts, lesson plans, solutions, syllabus. One of the things I would call to your attention are the first week resources. And these are some lessons and activities that you can do for your first week, whether it's you're new to CodeHS or the students are new to CodeHS or to computer science. These have some really helpful activities to get them acclimated. Yeah, you all can also see our textbooks here under resources. So currently we have one for Intro to Computer Science and JavaScript and the AP Computer Science A. We are currently making more as well. Okay, the next tool or resource that I'm going to highlight is the course catalog. And you can access the course catalog by going to this very top navigation panel under resources and choosing course catalog. And this is where you can see all of the courses that we have at CodeHS. You can filter down, you can search, you can find out more about the course by choosing Learn More. You can view the units, see the syllabus. You can enroll in them as a student, so kind of like we enrolled in the PD section today. You can assign it to your students, or you can add it to your courses list, and you would do this if you have not made sections yet, or you want to maybe edit the course or add to the course before you're actually assigning them out. Okay, back to our raster page. So that, again, the toolbox under resources is where you can find the course catalog. Another very great tool that Ryan briefly touched on today is Create. So he made his own assignment, and you can as well. One place that you can do that is in the Create page. So you can find that either in Toolbox under Create or also in the left navigation here under Create. I think it's really helpful to, if you want to create assignments, look at the help article that we posted both in the chat and in the questions doc, just because there's lots of different ways that you can do that. And so those have videos and helpful information for that. Okay, so we talked about resources, Create. The other very important thing I think you guys should know is about support. So if you choose under support, go to contact us. That's what you're going to write into me and my team. And we can help you if you have questions about the curriculum, if you have suggestions or feedback, or if you want to know how to use a specific tool, you can contact us and we can help you with that. Another tool that you guys can use and that we as the support team use as well is the knowledge base. And that is where we have, I'll show you, I have it loaded here. This is where all of our help articles live. So if you just search for just a keyword, we probably have an article that can show you how you can do it. So this is a great resource for you guys. And another place that you can get to this knowledge base and also to support is if you see in this lower right-hand corner, this little keyboard icon. If you click that, it'll open a little pop-up where you can contact us, or also you can get to the knowledge base that way as well. And then the last very big helpful place I want to show you is the full toolbox. So from this toolbox menu, if you choose view full toolbox and then view all tools, you'll be taken to a page that looks like this. And this is super helpful because it has a whole list of a lot of the different tools and resources we have. And then you can quickly see the plan level, if it's available for free or pro. And also it has these very nice links where it'll automatically link you to a help article discussing this tool, and also a quick video demo discussing the tool as well. So we have lots of different places for you to find information and lots of different places for you to get help. Okay. All right, that is the end of my spiel talking about the courses and resources and tools. We're going to hop back into the presentation in just a second. 1 second, apologize. Okay, so we did talk about many different resources and tools today, and there are way more that you can use. So one very helpful resource I have, or we have, is the CodeHS Educators Facebook group. And this is full of other teachers who have lots of great suggestions for using CodeHS and just for teaching computer science in general. So I'd highly recommend joining that group, and we will drop the link in the chat in a little bit. Oh, it's already there. So we highly recommend that. You can also follow CodeHS on social media, where we have lots of, sometimes we post student projects, different resources for teachers, and then also continue to come to events like this. So we have many different free workshops going on this summer, some led by us, some led by other teachers who are using CodeHS. And we also have, so we record these. So if you can't come to a specific workshop, we will still email it out to you. So you should still register, or you can also view them in our help article as well. We have links to the past events. All right, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Ebony. That was great. So much information, so much to take a look at. So if you have any questions, make sure put those in the parking lot or use any of those support tools that Ebony showed today. So if you could hop over to this feedback survey. I know if you have been here before, you may have already left some feedback on previous workshops, but we love to see if these are really giving you the information that you came for, and we want to make sure that we can improve in any way possible. So I am already working on making a list of things based on what teachers have said so far for our next workshops and how we can make those more effective for you. So definitely please fill that survey out to give us some feedback. And if you need a certificate for today, for attending our session today, Ebony, if we can go to the next slide, we're going to show the link for our certificate. So if you go to codehs.com/javascript-certificate, it's just a quick Google form for your name and your email. Double check your email, make sure that it is correct, because if it bounces back, then we have no way of getting that to you. So just fill that out and you should be getting that within the next day. So thank you so much for attending. We really love being able to talk to teachers and giving you a chance to talk to each other. We want to make sure that we are here to help you and make your teaching time with CodeHS as successful as possible. So have a great day, and we hope to see you again at another workshop soon. Bye, everyone.